I will be introducing shortly. We'd like to welcome you. I'd like to begin by thanking Karen Billings and the SIIA in particular for providing us a venue for this event. You'll, I'm sure, enjoy using the ReadyTalk platform that they are providing us for this event. In addition, and I think you all know Karen, seeing as how she's been around the block with the dolls for a little while. Karen, can you say a quick hi?
Just a very quick hello because I cough when I talk.
Okay. Karen is going to be largely silent and will be providing the support behind the scenes and will be monitoring the chat window. I hope you can all find the chat window, which is in the lower left hand, I believe, of your screen. So please feel free to pose questions as you go via the chat window. We are going to ask you to hold your questions for the end so that we can ensure we get all the way through the presentation. And any questions we don't get to answer, we have agreed we will answer via email in one document that we will send to all of the attendees. So we hope that will suffice for those questions that we don't get to answer. So today's event arose out of a request from a fellow doll to say, what's the deal with New York City and what's the process like to be approved? And so we put together a program of experts for you today, and our two presenters are Joyce Whitby and Allegra Toback, and I never remember your last name.
Simon.
Simon, thank you. So I'd like to begin by introducing Joyce Whitby. So many of you know Joyce as an ed tech lifer, I guess. That's, having been around for quite a while with companies like Apple and Jostens and Scientific Learning, Joyce is now VP of Sales and Marketing at Monarch Teaching Technologies, which is the producer of Vizzle, which is a Web 2.0 tool for teachers that work with children on the autism spectrum. Joyce is also wife to Tom Whitby, who's the co-founder of EdChat Twitter, and is a social media consultant. So that's Joyce. Joyce, say a quick hi.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Happy Friday.
And next we have Allegra. And Allegra Toback-Simon. For most of you, Lily Toback was synonymous with Meisner Incorporated. Lily was extremely instrumental in the software industry across the country, and over the last 30 years built Meisner into one of the New York City DOE's largest vendors. Many of you know Allegra as Lily's daughter and sidekick. You remember my daughter Allegra, he always used to say. And for the last 20 years, Allegra's been working in the business. What you don't know, perhaps, is that Allegra is the proud third-generation owner and president of Meisner now. Since her mother's passing in November of 2010, Allegra's taken over the company and is striving to take Meisner to new heights in this century learning environment. And as a veteran vendor for the New York City DOE for over 40 years, she looks forward to continuing this legacy. She is the proud wife of Mike Simon, lawyer, and loves being the mom to a 3.5-year-old Isaac, and lives here in New York City. So that's our panel. Many of you know me. I'm Farimah Schuerman. I'm a managing partner at Academic Business Advisors, and wearing many hats on today's event. I'm very pleased to be able to turn over the floor to Joyce, who will begin the presentation.
Thanks, Farimah. And I would like to start off by saying, as we kind of go over our agenda for today, that this was, as Farimah said, it's an ad hoc kind of response to a question on the dolls line. And as I look at the list of names here, there are several of you who should actually also be presenting along with us. So I know a number of you have already had many years' worth of experience in dealing with New York City Department of Education, and prior to being the Department, the Board of Education. Allegra and I are just going to go over some of the basic things that we think are kind of the must-have knowledge base for dealing with the Department of Ed. But keep in mind, this is still their Department of Ed. We're in no way, shape, or form trying to give you a comprehensive A through Z. This is all of the answers that go on within New York City. They will. They continue to have the right to change any of the rules, and they probably will as they go along. So if you've been working with New York City for a long time, you know that once you finally figure out how the system works, you're probably going to see a change. So it's just, part of the game. Hopefully what we can do is give you a chance to figure out how to get on into the system so that you can immerse yourself and your folks in your company, and therefore once you're in the loop, you'll be getting updates and you'll know where things are at. So our plan is to kind of go over some New York City basics, talk about getting a vendor number, a contract number, and then help you understand the world of FAMIS, what you can see, what vendors can see, and how to use the vendor portal. And then we'll address some things about RFPs and take some questions hopefully at the end. So New York City Department of Education, now aligned underneath the mayor's office, is the largest school system in the world.
Joyce?
School system. Yes.
There's a lot of notes saying they only hear music on the call.
Oh, really? What's that? All right.
In the chat.
Okay.
Sorry.
If you're accessing via computer and you're having difficulty, you might try muting your computer and accessing via the phone. The phone number, once again, is 866-740-1260. 1260, and the pass is the same as the meeting number, 789-4467.
All right.
Thank you.
If you dialed in the 4467, it should come in. There was one communication that I believe said 4487, which was incorrect. So the last email that went out was correct.
Thank you.
And I'll just take the opportunity to go ahead, and I just kind of tossed it on in here as well. Okay.
Thanks, Joyce.
Unless if I have the phone. No, I didn't. So in terms of New York City's basic organization, it's right now organized into clusters and networks, known as the Children's First Network. So what was once, our 32 community school districts in the Chancellor's District and District 75, although District 75 still exists as is, the schools are now not organized under community districts, but rather Children's First Network districts. And basically what we're going to walk through when we go on through, you'll see in a little bit, is the home page of the Department of Ed, and you'll be able to go and find this schools based upon that home page. The biggest part about this is such a large school system, and everything has been decentralized, right? So if you ask anybody, the Empowerment Project that initiated all of this has all of the decision and buying-making power down at the principal level. There are some consortiums, there are some network deals, but we're talking about principals. So first things first. Oops, that went by quickly, not sure why. But first things first, let's talk about, I'm going to try and get it back to the main screen here. The first thing to get is a vendor number. In order to just begin with the whole process, you need to go through a process of completing very extensive Vendex forms. The website to obtain them is there. There are 2 questionnaires that get filled out, and they require official sign-off, notarized sign-off, CEO, your CFO, any proprietary members of your management team within the company. It's not a long process. It's just a matter of filling out forms, which is one of those things that we all fear and don't do well in life. So don't put it off. It's step 1. Step 2 is a little bit more complicated, and that are, there are 4 ways listed in blue to do contract-based business with New York City Department of Ed. And then there are a couple of other ways. Let me kind of address them one by one. The first is a solicitation process. If there is a RFP which is sent on out to vendors on the bidders list, once again, if you've done step 1, you have a vendor number and you'll have access on in to signing yourself up for the bidders list. But you can respond to an RFP, and then you will be on a list of approved vendors for that type of a solicited RFP. So examples of that might be for a particular type of a commodity or a particular type of a service that might be offered, and like the various different types of contracts, like a professional development contract. There are also competitive grants, which might be a way to get a contract with the city. And if the district is listed for a competitive grant, it'll be awarded that by the funding source, and then you can do business with the district without any further bidding. Third way, which is less than available in most cases, is the chancellor's exception to a bidding committee, and there are really some limitations with that in terms of the amount of money that can be spent in terms of a exception. So it's really limited to those types of projects that might be $25,000 and less. And then the fourth way is getting onto a listing application. All of these are described in a document which we are going to also provide to you, which is right off of the Department of Ed website, but it is kind of difficult to find, so we thought it might be easier to kind of send it around to folks. But the point is, you can get in the door and get a contract in a few different ways. What I found, though, with the listing application is that you do need to go through a process of doing some sort of a pilot out in the schools and having them do, take a look at your product. And if you get 3 letters from principals that are stating that, yes, they'd like to go ahead and make purchases, that's part of the process when you're making the application for the listing application. I've also found that there are 2 other back doors for smaller types of entry-level products. One is that you can always do business as a sole source if you are indeed the sole source for your product. And therefore, if you have a sole source letter and a vendor number, again, that was step 1, then you could be going ahead into doing, you can have the process to deal with in FAMIS as a sole source. And the last thing is very small types of deals are their P cards or procurement cards. And those are really for single transactions. The guidebook usually says the maximum of $5,000. I found that to be a surprise because I haven't seen people spend more than $800, $900, $1,000 max on a P card. I've seen very small purchases, but sometimes that's enough to kind of get little things passed through that might not be able to get you on a business. So, again, we will provide you with a document that is the latest document from the Department of Ed on all of their processes. And there's another document that we provide, which is the contract management document, and that's the guidebook. But those are the first 2 steps. Get your vendor number, get a contract number. I'm going to turn it on over to Allegra to talk about, once you have the vendor number, how do you get on in, manage your way around the system. And this is some of the stuff that really trips people up. So, Allegra?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. It's an honor to speak with all of you. I'm going to utilize the little green arrow a little bit as I go. This is the main Board of Education site where you can find any information at all. On the lower left-hand corner, you'll see that the vendors have their own specific area. Once you click that, you then, Then you go to the portal login. So here where I have the arrow, you would put your tax ID number, and you have your own personalized password. And then next, you will see this is your personalized V portal, which is the vendor portal. And I'm going to go through and show you a couple of what all these different options do on each side. But these are all of the different tools that you can use once you are a vendor and you are approved. I'm first going to show you how to submit product into the system itself.
I have a password. I have the portal.
I'm sorry? So the first screen asks you to select a template, which there are various commodities that drop down from this. There are software, there are books, there are general supplies, there are hardware. And depending on what you drop down depends on what templates. As you can see here, there will be different options of what templates you can find. The software template in particular, for those of us who are software vendors, is extremely filled with information. It's a 28-column spreadsheet. And on the next slide, you will find that these are all the categories in the download. And you have to fill out this form every time you want to submit new software. Some of them, as per the key, are required, some are optional, and some are system generated. The most important things to put in are going to be your manufacturer item number and your vendor catalog number, because that is going to allow FAMUS to automatically assign an item/FAMUS number. The board does not use ISBN numbers as identification numbers for ordering any longer. So that's very, very, very important. Next, we're going to look at how to upload a new catalog. So once you've filled out a template, you're going to save it in a tab delimited form, and then you're going to upload new catalog. Again, drop down software, hit browse until you find your correct file on your desktop, and hit submit. Once that happens, you'll see a little round ball that I couldn't replicate here that says being submitted. And you will then can redirect to the screen that says file status. So this is an example of, this is my file status screen. Over here is your batch ID number. You see the date. You see the total number of items submitted. You can see if there's an error. If it's approved, it means it went to the right office. If it was received, if it was rejected. Continuing on, if you have an item that gets an X with a little box that's a triangle, you can mouse over that triangle and it will tell you what your error is. It may say you have the wrong contract number. It may say duplicate item. It may say field omitted from your spreadsheet, in which case, yes, you do have to go back and fill out the entire line. Again, not the whole spreadsheet, just the line. And going on from there, if you go back to home again and you want to view your items, you would click on View/Edit Item. You would come here to your search commodity. You're going to pull down whichever commodity you're selling, books, software, general supplies, and you can choose, and these are the FAMUS choices, so description, item number, manufacturer, manufacturer name, and search. And it's going to bring up the items that you're looking to find. When you're doing this, if you want to edit an item, you're going to click on the left right here, and it will take you to that direct item. You'll be able to edit it, and then once you send the change, it will be locked. It takes about 48 hours to get anything put through the system. When you submit new product in terms of when you send new products into the system, once it's approved, it takes 48 hours to appear on shopdoe.net, which is the general public viewing place where anyone can look for software. If you had gone back to the main menu again, here we're looking at how to create a report. So you can look at what items you have put into the system. You, again, choose your type. You would either put in your vendor number or your contract number, and you can load a report that can be exported into PDF or Excel format. It also has the capability, and again, this is on the vendor home screen, to create a purchase order report. So this is if you wanted to check on all the POs that have been sent to your company over a period of time. Your vendor number, your ID number, the date range that you're checking, and they can only be checked up to 30 days after they were initially sent to you. Typically, purchase orders are sent out the night before and received electronically the next morning. There is also a catalog management tool option on the home page, which you can print. It does go through all these instructions. It's a little bit geared towards book submittals, but it is helpful sometimes. And then this is going to be a very important page for whoever is in charge of your vendor portal. This is the account administrator page, where you are going to be able to go in and put your vendor name, your address, your city, and change all sorts of key information. The security questions, who is allowed to use the system, how do you get in and out of the system, and again, you can only assign one administrator to that system. That can be changed. Again, back on the home, Joyce was describing that you can look at various RFPs and bids once you have a vendor number. On the left side, it says download bids. This is what you would see. This is a list of the current bids and RFPs available. It lists the name of the bid, what it's for, the closing date, and then sometimes it's already closed, which doesn't make much sense. And add to shopping cart. Each bid that you wish to download for your company is $25. Once the administrator has downloaded that bid, they can go ahead and look. Anyone else in the company can then go ahead and look at that download. So you only have to pay one time. And I'm just going to swing back to the home page for 1 minute and show you. So here's our administrator. Here was our solicitations for bids. Here is the tutorial, and here are the PO downloads. And again, this is found on the main Board of Ed page. And the schools are not allowed to enter here, just as we are not allowed to enter the school's FAMIS system. Just an important note that's not on the slides is that the vendor cannot enter FAMIS as a school. So you will not be able to see what the school looks at when they're placing an order. So you really need to be familiar with this system so you know what everything really looks like on the back end for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that is pretty much it. I'm reading a note from Joyce. 1 moment.
Yep, that's cool. That was just answers to some of the folks that were asking some questions as we were going along. So I think, that's probably one to start off with. But
the contract administrators, sure.
Okay.
So what happens when you want to get a contract with the Board of Ed is you have to get your vendor number, and then you have to get in touch with a contract administrator at the DOE, which happens in the Department of Contracts and Purchasing, DCP, downtown 65 Court Street. There are many people in that department. You really never know who you're going to speak to, but there are several different people, and they are the ones who will guide you in obtaining the correct forms to go forward with getting a contract. Typically, you do need to have requests from schools, principals, or higher level people in the district to get an item on a bid, as Joyce had said. It's not a short process. It's a lengthy process. The vendor number is the simple part, and the rest is sort of where you really need to put the meat and potatoes and effort into getting it done. And forming the relationship with an administrator at the Department of Client Services is very important.
I also found that it's, sometimes we send off emails or we make phone calls and leave voice messages, and we're expecting that they're going to be calling us back. These folks are not particularly great at that. So you need to, as graciously and patiently as possible, just keep pursuing them. And I always felt that I got much more with honey than with vinegar. And by doing so, that's how I ended up forming some of those lifelong relationships, really, with folks that are at that financial service center and those client services people.
Agreed.
They really just appreciate you being that patient with them and just saying, hi, it's me again. I need to know. You need to be worrying about that. You can't expect that you're just going to send an email and you're going to get a full, wealth of information. It does take a little time to kind of pour through it because that's the way of doing business.
And along those same lines, we didn't address it in this email, but if anyone is curious as to whether you get paid on time from the Board of Ed, which I'm sure some people are, they're actually very prompt now with their payments, but it's very difficult to get through to find out the person in the borough who pays the bills. We have recently updated our invoicing, and someone actually called us to say, your invoice is so nice now, thank you. You can call me and I will return your calls. And they really appreciate when you're nice to them and when you say, I understand you're busy. Whenever you have 5 minutes, it's okay if it's 5 o'clock. I think Joyce's point is very well spoke, that you have to be patient, but it will pay off. It just takes time to form those relationships if you don't have them yet.
So Jennifer has a question that we really haven't addressed, and I think it may have been part of the original issue that spurred the webcast, and that is, how does the software process, does it significantly differ from other product purchases? Is the software contract process significantly different?
Yes.
And one other piece that I know was a question I had was, if you have a product that's blended partly software and partly print material, is that software, is that print material, is that two processes? How is that handled?
Joyce, can I take it?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. So those are under the commodities, and they are all handled differently. I'm only myself familiar with software and a little bit with textbooks. In general, every single commodity is handled differently. Books, Meisner has always found that everybody talks to the book publishers right away, because books are needed immediately, this minute, this second. So when you're doing software, you can't just call and say, I got a vendor number, I want to put my product on the Board of Ed web list, I want to get listed, I want to get on a contract. You do have to have people out there in the 5 boroughs using your software from pilots or from donations who are going to be your advocates. You have to have information about the efficacy of that product, and you have to have people who are going to recommend it. And those people have to have some sort of influence. At the very lowest level, they have to be a principal. In my opinion, sometimes they have to be even higher, and at times they have to be willing to commit to spend. They have to call and say, I want to spend $5,000 on Evan Moore software. That's just an example. You know, what can you do? Can you put it on a bid? And the DCP hears that, but they're waiting for 2 more. Does that answer the question?
You work for your contract administrator on it. It was really, I've done it now with the two past companies I've been with. I've gone out to various, whether it's a marketing events like the New York City Elementary School Principals Conference, NYCESPA in January, or middle school principals, or celebration of teaching and learning, which is coming up now in March.
Right.
And then go ahead and get it there's schools on a pilot basis and get them to be your recommendation.
Whoever's got the background noise, would you please mute your line? Okay, thank you.
I could also address the question quickly about the accounts payable that Naomi asked, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
So when you go onto the portal, dispersed means, because all of it is done through electronic fund transfer now, dispersed means it is in the process. Paid means it's in your bank account. It's a very simple answer. And the only thing you have to be careful of is they sometimes make mistakes about the PO number they list referring to the amount. that's when you have to call vendor services, and that's when it gets difficult to find the right person to talk to about getting your bills paid.
That's great. We're just at the 3:30 mark, which is the time we allotted for this call. If anyone has any further questions, please feel free to send them or to type them in the chat window now. And we will wrap up and say thank you so much, especially to Karen Billings and to the SIIA for providing us a venue, and to Joyce and to Allegra for the wealth of information they provided. And we'll look forward to other informal and ad hoc opportunities to share knowledge this way, I think. Worked out very well. So thank you all who took time to join us today, and I think we'll sign off.
Thank you all, everybody.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Please stand by.